This is Peter with DTools Software. Hope you're all well, and I appreciate you making the time, taking the time out of your busy day to join this webinar. Well, great. So today I'm just going to do an overview of DTools. I always encourage people, if you see enough here that kind of piques your interest and warrants further evaluation, there's always a local account executive in your area that can go through in more detail in a personalized online meeting. Today, the goal is to give you guys an overview, just a little bit of background about our software. Is we've been in this space for over 2.5 decades, so it's a very proven software. We have actually up to 7,000 customers now across the globe, and we continue to win awards. I need to update this. We just got Best in Show for software at InfoComm this year in 23. And it really is a great software for anything low voltage. So whether that's structured cabling, networking, certainly audio, video, access control, camera systems, great software all around for anything low voltage. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And what we typically see with new customers coming in is they do have a process in place, but typically it's multiple systems. They are not connected, and that can lead to some bottlenecks and some manual or human error in the process. And this is one of the main slides I like to show in the beginning. Is this is kind of the 500-foot view of DTools. So it's everything from the software can manage everything from your initial walkthrough throughout the quoting process. And we do have a customer portal, so you can then share the quote directly with the customer through our software. You can get them to e-sign it. You'll get updates of whenever they click and interact with the quotes or any documents that you send. And then we also plug into both AutoCAD and Visio for drawings, and that opens up some interesting use cases. Because if you follow the first route of you build the equipment list and quote, send that over and get it signed, you can then open up either Visio or AutoCAD and start building your drawings, and you can drag items from that customer approved equipment list. Or if you are a little bit more design oriented, you can actually start the whole project just from the drawing. You can open up drawing in Visio or AutoCAD and start doing the overlay, or maybe build the schematic or rack drawing. And as you build the drawing, it's going to auto-populate your equipment list for you in the background. So you can go either way, or both on some jobs. And you can also use both AutoCAD and Visio on the same project. Some interesting use cases there, and I'll be certain to touch on that as we go through this today. And then where we've really built out the software in the last 7-8 years is the post-sales process. So once the job is won, you can now manage your ordering in our software. You can also manage your scheduling. We have our own calendar built into the software. The software does come with mobile apps as well, so you can schedule the team. It has time tracking on the mobile app, and all of that information, once it's completed, comes back into the job costing area of the software. And that's really powerful because you have all the estimated information on what you budgeted the cost to be on the products, the cost to be on the labor, and then as you receive the items in the warehouse, and then also as the information comes back from the mobile apps from the techs in the field, you can now see percentage complete, what was the delta on what we thought the cost would be on labor or products, and do some really good job cost reporting in our software. And then also, once you've finished the install, you can now manage your service plans in our software. And you can actually include, I'll show you in a minute, you can include the templates of your service plans with your initial quote, so you can win the job and the ongoing business, or you can send the service plan separately, get the account to sign on that. And then using that same mobile app that you use for your installs, you'll use that for your service orders and track what the tech does on the service call, the time. And it also, one important factor is on the mobile app, you're able to do change orders So whether that's a service call or an install, you're able to track any changes that the tech does out there, and that'll track to the service call or the install in the project. So that's the high level there. And to me, the drawing integration is very powerful and it's certainly unique. But I think the biggest differentiator with our software is the product information. And I'm going to go through there. We're going to make a pit stop here as we get into the software right away and see this. But this is where, with us being in the space for over 2 decades, we've built partnerships with a lot of brands and distributors. We have over 2,600 brands in our online library. I'll show you that in just a minute. And then we've also created partnerships for automated pricing updates based on your account ID for if you're ordering direct from manufacturers or going through distribution. And that can be really handy for automating your pricing controls or your price updates on your products. And we also include, with a lot of brands, the cut sheet information, the product data. So the height, depth, weight, as well as the inputs and outputs are going to be included with the parts. And then we also include, based on NSCA, Infocom, CEDIA, we include, in our experience, base labor hours for every part. So for example, a speaker might take half an hour to install, this controller or processor might take 2 hours, and you can set your labor rates off of those hours, and you can edit them. If you think it's 1 hour instead of 2, that's fine, you can change it. But that way you've got a nice handle on every part, and that can help you scope out how long install should take, as well as you can use those hours for estimating on the labor as well in your quotes. And we'll look at that in a little more detail in just a minute. And as far as the quoting side, just touch on it real quickly. Sky's kind of a limit on how you want your quotes to look. You can put a picture from the on-site. You can lay it all out with just a single line item, just make the quote 1 or 2 pages. Or you can make it a little bit more detailed and have pictures of the parts, put in a description. You can control whether the model number is on the quote or not, and send that over to the customer portal to sign off. And there is also, with every office license, a mobile app for your techs in the field, and there's also a mobile app for your sales team. It's an iPad companion app, and it's really built for when you go do the on-sites. You can snap photos, key in information, you can drop in your products, and it's, for your smaller jobs, you can actually get it signed right there at the end of the walkthrough. For your larger jobs, typically it's more of a scoping and budgeting tool to gather that information digitally and then sync that back with the office software. It'll land as a new project and you can put it into more of a formal quote. So a good tool for out in the field. And the drawing integration we touched on earlier. Here's just a few examples where when you're doing these are done in Visio, but we also integrate with AutoCAD as well. But this is where if you drop your devices in, we provide all the stencils for SIA for security, the J standard shapes for audio video, and do a nice floor plan overlay. But this same device, if I were to drop this projector into a schematic drawing, it's going to be a box with inputs and outputs. If I do just a basic signal flow or line diagram, it's just going to be a picture of the part. And if I drop it into an elevation, it's going to be a graphical image that's true to scale. So the height, depth, weight information, and you can build those racks to scale as well. And we'll look at the drawing integration in a little more detail in just a minute. And then to touch on the project planning, this is where we have our own version of a Gantt chart built into our software. So if you remember, the parts have half an hour, 2 hours, whatever it might be to install, and I can lay that out by phase or location or system or a combination of those, and I can set my predecessors or milestones and put together a strategy for that install. You don't have to use the Gantt chart, but certainly they can be helpful. And then we also have our own calendar built into the software, and anything that you schedule here in the Gantt chart or in our calendar is going to show up in the calendar for the tech on both their Gmail and Outlook calendars. And there's an example of the mobile app. It is a web-based app, so you can use it on a phone, iPad, any email-enabled device, it'll work. And then as we touched on service plans, time permitting, it's hard to get it all in one meeting, but I'll touch on this briefly as we round for home. But you can include service plans in your quotes or sell it separately. There's tools for tracking when they auto renew, all that good stuff, allowable hours, and then also the service calls or service orders will attach to that plan, so you can follow that, track that account and manage all the service you've done on that account. That's the high level on the software. Again, if you have any questions on what we just covered there, feel free to put those in the chat. And then here I'm getting into, this is the homepage for the software. We're now on version 20, and we did during COVID updated and kind of organized. It's a lot more logical, in my opinion. Yeah, everything's under its own icon with its drop downs. We are coming out with a dark mode. I'm pretty excited about that here with the software. That'll be out here later this year. But what you're seeing here on the homepage, this is where you can, under business analytics, come in and create your own reports. So the way the software works is the licenses are concurrent. So you might have 2 licenses, but once you log out, then someone else in another department can then log in and use the software. So you can share them around the licenses, and based on your login, you can create your own reports you want to see. So I've just created a few of them here. Maybe you want to track leads, the marketing team, where they're coming from, and maybe you want to track the sales pipeline at a high level and set a weight to it. Or maybe you want to see, like the sales director wants to see the sales pipeline in more detail with the margins on the equipment, on the labor. You can drill into those. Maybe you want to track change orders over a certain time period and see who's creating any change orders, track your ordering in the software. And also, maybe the scheduler wants to see any work orders that are overdue or service orders. So that's just a small sample. You can really customize any type of report here using the information on your projects in the software. But what I want to do now is, before we get into a job, is spend a little bit of time here on the product information. So here in the Product Explorer, this is where in my local version of the software, I've got over 3,000 parts that I can now drag and drop into an equipment list or a drawing. And where I'm getting all these parts from is I can always, like I said, take kind of a long way home here and create a product from scratch. Just hit new, come in, pick out a manufacturer, and then come in and key in the information, hit save. This is helpful for one-offs on projects, right? But as far as building your actual database of parts that you use, this tool right here, the online library, is definitely the way to go about it. And so when I click on this, I'm leaving my version of the software and coming out to the online library that's available to all D-Tools customers. This is also available during our trial to test. And this is where you can see we've got, those 2,600 brands. We actually now have over 1 million parts available. And it's something that we have a team dedicated to maintaining. So you can see last week, that's a little bit large, over 50,000 parts. That's a little unusual. It's normally in the 5 to 15,000 range in terms of parts that we're either adding or updating. And what we're tracking when we're adding or updating is, let's just use one that's getting kind of common, but if I type in QSC, it's going to narrow it down to the 400 plus QSC parts that are available. And if I go into a subcategory, let's see, maybe these are some parts that I use. So to use, keeping with the theme of a library, you highlight the parts you use, and you check them out like a library or download them. And now these parts have taken ownership. These parts are now downloaded and are available in my local database. And to give you an idea real quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on the product information, but it is a big differentiator. If I hit preview, this is the information that comes down over. Break down the features, long description, the height, depth, weight. If you remember, the install phase and the base labor hours, again, you can edit that, but those are going to come over. And then your inputs and outputs will be helpful when you're doing your schematic drawings. And oftentimes you'll get a brochure, manual, front and back panel image. So quite a bit of information when you download it. And again, this is what it actually looks like in your database once you download it. Here, the description, you can choose to use these in your quotes and change them if you want. Pricing, this is where, MSRP, you can set up your own price rules. You can set up to 50 different price tiers. So when you start a job and the account is in a certain vertical or it's a preferred customer, you can have your price tiers set up and you can work off of, set up your own price rules. The cost is a percentage discount off of MSRP. Your price is a percentage up from MSRP. And in a minute, I'm going to show you once you connect to your brands and distributors, your dealer cost is what's going to show, and you can tack off of that instead of just MSRP. Also, all the height, depth, weight, the inputs and outputs. And then lastly, this is accessories. These might not make sense. I probably kind of used this part before, but what this is, you can see the word prompt. So what this means is whenever someone on my team drops this A4 Flex into a job, they're going to be prompted to say, hey, Pete, do you need this expander, this audio cable, video cable, all those little additional items that might be forgotten on a job. Power supplies is a big one. I've seen forgotten. So that's a little bit on here. And, if you were to do Crestron or Hanwha or whoever it might be that you're using, right? There's an excellent chance we've been in the space so long that we've got the parts, you download them and you're ready to go. So that's kind of the process, is starting with the software, is download the parts you use, Crestron over 2000, drop those in. And once, before we go to a job, the last place I want to stop here is if I come here to the vendor partner program, this is where we've got, over 191 participating brands and distributors. So for example, if you're ordering direct, or not direct, but through distribution, like say for ADI, you can see all the brands here that are under ADI. You can connect and put in your organization's unique account number and hit connect. And so for all the parts that you order through ADI, your dealer cost is going to be updated in the background for you. So every time you start a new project, it's going to have the most current pricing based on your account ID. And then, just to touch on a few other ones, so you're doing direct for Crestron, you can connect to get your pricing update. And then, we've also got plenty of other distributors, Exchange, Exertis, Snap was one of our first partners, Wave Electronics, or we looked at QSC earlier, order direct. So this whole list is on our website, right? And again, you can test this out on a trial if you want to as well. But that's the real key, is, hopefully I'm not beating a dead horse here, but get the parts with the engineering data and then automate the pricing updates. And then from there, you're going to want to set up some price tiers. And to give you a quick heads up on that, the software does come with a training and setup package, because that's really the key. You'll see as we do, once you get your parts and your labor rates and everything set up, the software becomes extremely drag and drop. But it takes about a month, a little over a month of working with our team of former integrators to get everything dialed in, so you can, everybody's living in the software and everything's set up and running. That being said, I came here. This is the Project Explorer. This is where I have all of my active projects. And just to scroll here, if I come down to this particular job right here and highlight it, this bottom ribbon is everything with that job. This is where you're pulling that information that's showing on the home page, right? You create your custom reports if you want, but if I come here and just highlight this job, I can set up my own folders. So it captures any photos that were taken on the mobile apps, any programming files, maybe a password file, any drawings I've done or drawing packets I've received from the account. We do have a very solid change order process. So whenever you win the job, marked as approved, it creates Rev 0. It locks your cost price, your drawings. Everything is locked as Rev 0. Then as your team goes through and creates either internal or external change orders, it'll capture the dollar amount they're adding or deleting, the dates, maybe a reason why. And as you mark these change orders as approved, it's going to create new revisions. And you can always go back to the previous, the initial agreed upon revision, but gives you a nice digital trail there of what's going on. And then also any work orders you've done. any service orders you've done, whether or not the account has an actual service plan, and also if you do ordering in our software, any purchase orders that are created. And if I switch jobs, right, all this information will change that I've got here. And if you guys are working with, large accounts that you have multiple projects on over the years, you can organize those folders. So I can just select that account and see all the jobs I've done for the particular accounts, right? Or I can just go back and see all of them. And as far as creating a project, there's a lot of ways to go about it. I'm going to show you this like as if you were to start new, how you create a project. But I do want to point out, a lot of people like to not have to build new jobs from scratch. So there are ways to, if you did a job where maybe you built a detailed drawing for a rack or a schematic, you can always right click and clone that job and just change the customer name and run a price update. You can create a project from a template. If you have a certain kind of job where you've already built a certain kind of drawing or equipment list, have that already set up as a template. But for today's meeting, I'm just going to create a new project from scratch here, and just walk us through the setup wizard. And we're going to go and build the equipment list for the drawing. Here, this is anybody I've worked with in the past is going to be here. And let's see, like these guys here. Just going to give it a name. And you can create your own statuses here. I've just got a few that I use. Say it's estimating. You can assign people to certain tasks on the job, and that can be really helpful because as I change the status, so let's say Oscar's on the draw, he's doing designing or drawings on this job. If I switch it to design review, Oscar's automatically going to get an email and a ping within the software that, hey, you're up to bat for this Miami job. Go in and review or create the drawings. Then he can just switch it to ready for delivery. It'll now email and ping the sales rep that, hey, you're up to bat. Go ahead and send this over to the customer. And if you want to track your sales pipeline, estimated close date, and then once you win the job, the start date, the different price tiers. So I'm just going to keep mine at my basic retail pricing. And that's really all I need to do to start the job. Is just put this basic information in and hit save. Just to show you guys, if you want to add more detail now, you can. The primary contact, and that'll show on the quote, the site address and the billing address. Taxes, you can set up your own tax groups here. And Amsterdam. So you can have your tax groups. And we also have an integration with Avalara, so you can do a free lookup on the tax rates based on the address that you have for the account. And then 6, 7, and 8 is where you're adding a little bit more to the job. So, if you have a scope of work that you typically use in certain jobs, right, you can drop that in and then maybe add more details onto that if you want to. And then 7 and 8, this is where you're doing putting in your locations and systems. So I'm not sure how all of you guys do your projects, but if you want, we typically will do it by location and system. You could do it with neither or just one of them. But I'm going to add a few here. I typically add rooms and systems when I'm actually building the job, but I'm just going to add a few here. And also I can add, I know the systems I'm going to be using on this one. Add a few systems in. And this is, if you're doing progress payments, you can set the percentages and the date. And then as you build the job, the amount will populate here. And then this one step, the very last step, step 10, this is custom field. So when you guys get the software, it's all going to be just custom field 1, 2, 3, etc. You can make these like a drop-down field. You can make them a true, false, number field or a date stamp field. You can also, common ones I've seen are if there's a Wi-Fi password, or actually that's a gated access, something like that. Wi-Fi password, or if you want to paste in the original walkthrough notes or something like that, you can, right? And that way, 2 years later, you can just open up this job and that information will be there. So it can be a nice little handle for that. And okay, so now it's taking me into the equipment list. And in a minute, I'm going to open up the drawing as well and layer that into the job. But here we'll just start and building this quote or building this equipment list. So you can see the rooms that I added are over here. The systems are here. If I need to add more systems, I can. If I need to add or edit the rooms, I can. And you can see there's no items, no install price, no labor. But let's go ahead and add some things. So I'm going to say we'll start in the lobby or the AV system. And there's a couple ways to add parts. I'll show you just two of them here, but I can come in and say, I want to add speaker. And maybe I'll just grab this Crestron speaker. You just highlight it and drag and drop it in. And of course, I don't have pricing on that one, so I need to go in and update that. So I can add, just drag and drop, or another way to do it is you can just click here on add products. I'm starting to do it this way a little bit more often now because, so I can clean this down. There we go. You can come in and let's say I want to add like a QSC part. That one we were looking at, Aplex, and I want to put that into both of these rooms, make it part of the audio video system. And when I do, it's asking me for those accessories, right? So again, these don't make sense, but you know, I could say I need that one, you know, just these two and not the other ones, and add those in. And so there's the two parts, right? So a couple ways to do it. You know, we do have a whole training and setup package that we, it's included with the software. Set that up, and then you can also, another way right here, multiple locations. Let's say I'm going to put some cameras in each one of those. Come over here. This dome camera. So I hope I'm not beating a dead horse here, guys, but a couple ways to do the same thing. So multiple locations, multiple products, and again, we need the HDMI, the power, the video to go with those. I'll say it's those. That's fine. Pop those in, and now let's change this view real quick. That's why it is. Okay. So drop those in. So you can see anything I put in, it's in the right location, system, labor, and taxes, if I had them set up correctly, are included. And for each one of those that I just put in, I expand it, it's got all the accessories underneath it as well. And the last thing to show you guys here is, let's say maybe in the mechanical room, that's where you're putting the rack. So I'm gonna switch to the rack system. I can come over, and these are pre-built systems. We call them packages, but pre-built can be a really handy tool. So I'm going to come here and just grab this AV rack kit, drop that in. So on my quote, it's going to say, you know, budgetary components for a rack, $6,000 US. But if I expand it, it's going to have all the items that I would normally use to build this rack. It's going to be the right location, system, labor, taxes included. And now I can come in and say, you know, maybe for this job, I don't need those two fans, and pull those out. All right, so packages are a way to just to speed up the process and build these projects out quickly. But that's a little bit on building the equipment list. We're up to 72 items very quickly. And if I want, I can change the view, and maybe because this view gets a little bit busy as I'm starting to work on bigger jobs. So I come to more of a summary view. Instead of having 4 of these in 4 different rooms, it just says, hey, you've got 4 total. And it also gives me a look into the cost price, profit margins, right? The labor hours, all of that information, right, is here in one place. And I can work off of this too and say, wait a minute, I only have, one of these. I need to add one more and put it in the office, right? And just increase or decrease the numbers right here. So up again, it's tools. There's normally 3 or 4 ways to do the same thing. Maybe you're picking up on that, but normally you'll find your way that works best for you and your company's process. But under reports, as far as creating a quote, once I've got the numbers right, I've got the pricing is good, which is not on this one. I would make some changes here, but once I would get that dialed in, I can now come under the reports and client-facing reports. And again, encourage everybody not to memorize every little button I'm clicking, just to get an idea of how it works. But this is where you're going to get about 100 out-of-the-box proposal templates, or if I want to do more of a line item by location, or maybe it's more of a RFP, RFQ, right? I can do it more with pictures and break it down a couple different ways. And one thing you can do is right-click it, like I mentioned earlier. You can decide to, show the model number, don't show the part, show the part number, don't show it, right? Toggle these features on and off, and you can save it. There's we're up to about 100 different permissions and controls, so maybe just the admin can make edits to how proposals look and feel, and it's just a set menu that your team can choose from. There I would hit run, and just to save us some time, got a few of these already pulled up. Oops. So this would be more of a stock report right here, quote. So you can put a picture from the on-site, change the color scheme to match your logo. I skipped the scope of work on here, but you can include the scope. And then this one's broken out by location, right? And then the system within each location. And in this one, what I did is I removed the model number and all those little accessories. I didn't price the accessories out differently. I just included the accessories and wrapped it up into the overall price. And this one's broken out, equipment and labor separately per each system and each location. So this would just be one way you can do it. This is certainly more of a custom proposal build here, where you've got a picture from the on-site, introduction to the team or the sales rep, breakdown of the disciplines, scope, gets the number out of the way early. And same thing, it's just loading up that equipment list that you built. And I'm scrolling quickly. Again, I encourage you to get back with your local rep and spend a little bit more time on this. You can break down a summary in a lot of different ways. Have the labor as just one line item, or have it broken out by phases. And then also your terms and conditions. If you're doing progress payments, have that loaded in. It is a document that the customer will e-sign on the portal and date. And then we touched on service. So this is where you can have your service plans and they can check a box, and you can have your templates for the plans and they can sign and date that so you can win the ongoing business as well. So that was a little bit on building the equipment list and loading it into a quote. But what I'm going to do now is let's layer on the drawings on top of this. So I'm just going to have this project highlighted. Come in and add the Visio drawing. So again, you can do either Visio or CAD. I'm just going to do Visio in this one. And what's going to happen, it's going to open up both AutoCAD and Visio at the same time here. There you go. So on you can do in Visio and AutoCAD the line diagram, elevation, floor plans, and schematic. Your title block will come and populate in Visio or AutoCAD from our G-Tool software, the job that you're working on. All of the parts that you downloaded, my 3,000 plus that I've downloaded, are all going to be here. So I think we pulled in some QFC earlier. Okay, so they're all going to be available through the plugin. Drag and drop those in. And then also to give you a very professional drawing, we include all of the shape files in Visio for JStandard for audio video, and AutoCAD it would be blocks, but it's going to be all the same. SIA for security, and then high voltage and fire as well. And, that being said, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and bring in a floor. We'll start with a floor plan, and I'm just going to drop this in. And it's pretty cool how this works. You can, if you've got like a large set of plans, like 20, 50, 100 pages, before you drop it in, you can pick which page or which pages you want to use. Each PDF is going to get its own plan view drawing page for you to work on. So I just got a simple one pager here. You can set the scaling, and it'll actually, there's a tool to do your wire runs from this entrance to this entrance is 114 feet, assign the Cat6 screen. You can do that if you want to. I'm just going to leave mine as a background. I'm not getting that much detail on this meeting, but that feature is there. And it was certainly helpful during COVID, I'll tell you that. Let's see. All right, it's working with me. Good news. But that one's not working. Okay. It is what it is. All right, so I would recommend 2 monitors. I'll put it that way. On GoToMeeting, I'm a little bit limited. But here we go. I've got the floor plan over here in the equipment list. So in this scenario, if you've already built the equipment list, you can come over to the equipment list and grab a part and just drag and drop it right onto the plan. And there's all sorts of tools in Visio for rotating, adjusting. There's a very robust right-click menu here where you can come in and set your defaults. So you want it to come in orange, or you want it to be a 360 coverage on these parts. You certainly can. And you can also work the other way. Let's say if I'm in the lobby and I realize I need to add another speaker in here. Just come over here and so the this JBL part. And I'm going to drag, this part is nowhere in my drawing or equipment list. I'm just going to drop it straight into the drawing. And when I do, it's still going to ask me about the accessories, which mount do I want, which cable. So just those 2 and not the other ones. And so it'll drop it into my drawing. And I use the speaker a lot, so you can see I've got it like it's a smaller size, but I've had it shaded green so my team can see it when they drop it in. But here's the cool thing: in the background, my part has dropped in, plus the accessories, location system, right, and the price information. And then I can also come in, if you want, you can show the manufacturer model number, or show the location. You can set your default, so it'll always show that. But hopefully it gives you an idea of the floor plan. It's really just taking advantage of all the features that we give you and just start dragging and dropping and building those out. You can also do more of a customer-facing drawing where it's really just going to use the picture that comes with the part, right? And I don't know, let's drop a few parts in here. So where you can kind of do like a basic signal flow, like this device flows to this one kind of thing, right? So we're just sketching it out and then getting into what I think is the most powerful drawing, the schematic drawing. This is where, this QSC, if I drop this part in, right, it's going to come in as a box showing the inputs and outputs. If I drag the same part into a floor plan, right, it's just going to be a shapefile, right? And if I drop it into a line diagram, it's just going to be a picture, right? But in a schematic, it's coded to be a box showing the IOs using that backend information. And this is where I can make a connection. This might not be a connection you guys would make, but you can use your imagination. That would be great. I'll grab this. this camera and this wire, this video cable, and it's really just like a configurator. I come over and decide which output I want to use and connect it here. And the cool thing is DTools recognizes that connection. So if I move these around, they stay connected. There's a lot of tools our team can show you. You can just show the connected terminals, right? And also, set your defaults. And again, that whole right-click menu, if you want to show the location, right, where those are. But what happens now is DTools recognizes that, this device and this location from this output to this wire connects to this other device, etc. And what it'll do is it'll auto-generate your wire, your cable runs, from the Cisco. This is from another job that I've saved to the Crestron. Here's the wire label. It'll auto-generate your wire labels based off of that schematic drawing. Room from to wire label, wire number, and you can put your company logo and change the alphanumeric wire labeling if you would like. And these can be printed on a handheld or several different mobile printers as well. Wire checklist, patch cord, HDMI. Right, so long story short, all of this documentation, quite a bit more as well, is built just on making the connections here. So you're building your drawing, your equipment list, and all your install docs for your team as you build these drawings. Certainly be really powerful, in my opinion. And then coming here into the last thing I'll do on the drawings. I know not everybody's a drawing fan, so I'm trying to get through this quickly so we can get to the field management. But if I'm building a rack, I can build, drop a package in and have all the items. But let's just say for this one, I'm just going to build a rack real quickly from scratch. Look at my Middle Atlantic. Drop this rack in. And again, as I drop it in, do I need the fan, the drawer, the base, all those little accessories? I'll say yes. But I've got it set up so that, it only shows the main item and not all these little accessory components that go with it. And it's just show you how that uses the height, depth, weight information. Grab a server. Right. And it's like we built the original rack builder for Middle Atlantic, so if you've used that, it functions very similar. Show the text blocks. And to give you guys an idea what a polished drawing would look like is, you can snap everything together. You can put a call out for the rack units. You can do a profile view to show the shelf depth and let the team know how you want this thing set up. And you can also run a load report, to say based on what I've put in this rack, how much does it weigh, and how much power does it require. So these can be really helpful. This would certainly be an example of what I would say would be like a drawing project template. You build this rack once, you save it as a project template. The next time you open up a job that's going to be similar, you can just, start it from a template where this drawing is already built and the corresponding equipment list is already there. And same thing with schematics. That's another common one. Floor plans always kind of change, but these two, maybe you make a few little tweaks to it, but you're not, reinventing the wheel every time. So hopefully this was helpful, guys, here on the drawing side. I'm going to go ahead and save and close this out, and we'll round for home here. I'm doing a little bit of scheduling. So on this job, you can see we're now at this price point. As far as creating, we call it a task, but a work order. A couple ways to go about it. I can go right here to the calendar. And this is where I have all of my text loaded in. And you can, it's not going to get too much into it, but you can set your hourly rates for the text. You can assign a burden cost factor to them as well, or track by project. Anything you've got scheduled. I don't know if I've done anything in a while. It's going to be here. Nope. But let's say if someone calls in, you need someone on the 30th. It's just, again, a right click and create either a new work order or a service order right from the calendar. And anything I schedule is going to show up on the text calendar. Just to speed things up, I'll just schedule this one from the actual job. So I just highlight, create new, and expand this so you guys can see what we're looking at here. So I'm just going to put in some basic information and get this over to the tech for this install. So give it a name, and the contact's going to pull from the job, the address, and they'll be able to do use Google Map on their app to route that out. Notes, if you remember those custom fields, right? So now this information can be dropped in, and don't call Pete at the office. It's right there on the on the work order. And then here's items. So this is everything on this equipment list. I can do a filter. I can just filter it by certain rooms or systems or phases. If I'm doing my ordering, I can do it. Everything's going to be not ordered, but anything I'm going to receive, I can do that, sort that way as well. But for argument's sake, I'm just going to grab a few items here and drop those in. So now I've got the items that we're going to be installing on this. If I schedule this through the calendar, I already know who's available. But here I can come in and check availability and pick a tech to assign. Okay, I need to go back and update that. All right, I'm missing an update on my labor hours. That's where we're getting a few of those warning signs earlier on the equipment list. But once I do the update, what will happen here is these items, one takes half an hour, one takes 2 hours, one takes 15 minutes. It'll give me an estimated time of how long this install should take. So right now I need to go back and get under the hood and fix that, but that's how the software functions, is that's where those estimated hours can be really helpful. And then for checklist, this is where these are really handy. Everybody's using these now. This is where it's a newer feature. Basically, it's like a commissioning report. So let's say like audio commissioning checklist, because I'll be able to see what items has the tech picked, what items has he installed. But I also want him to be out there like, hey, did he confirm the loudspeaker zone is working, yes or no? So these are all, boxes he can check on the mobile app to make sure he's done something. And I've even seen people use these for, like a service call. If you're fixing a certain type of security camera, do steps 1 through 4 before you call the office, kind of thing. So you can use them on service as well. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and publish. And when I do, I can, include certain stock reports that are going to be PDFs that the tech can reference. And if I've done drawings in this job, I can include a PDF of the drawing for the tech to reference while he's out doing the install. And this is going to go out as an invite to the tech, and that's where we're going to go next. Save and close. So now you can see on this job, got that scheduled, and if I were to go to the calendar, got him scheduled for the whole day on that one. And that's because I don't have my labor hours set up correctly, so it's kind of blocking out more than it needs to on this one. But that being said, let's go to mobile app. And see how this all comes together. So this is where I've got this particular tech. He's got his nice dashboard of what all is assigned to him, and it's color coded in terms of in progress, completed, overdue. You can also go into his calendar and see, you got a little red dot for stuff that's not done, completed. I don't know why that would still be in progress, but all right. But if I click on this one, this is what we created for this tech. So this is the particular install. So those notes from the job, the access, Wi-Fi password, you can route out through Google Maps. Here is all the items. that we picked on this one. And so he can, in the warehouse, go ahead and mark these items as picked. And that'll update in this project in the office software that this tech has picked these items on this date. Once they arrive, I can start the timer, and that's going to switch this to an in progress install. And I'm just going to walk you guys through here just a few of the key things on this this ribbon right here. So site items, this is where he can make a change while he's out. Yeah, we loaded him up with what we want to install, but here he can come in and add additional labor or an additional product. Just make a quick field change order. So maybe he needs to add another one of those cameras. You can add it from your catalog in the software, and that can include your price. You can make it taxable. A lot of people I work with don't want their techs kind of handling the numbers so much, so I leave this feature off. But if you want, you can include it. But get that, and they can actually have the customer or the lead tech approve that change. And there's also a feature here where if you rather do it like an e-signature, you can. Not everybody wants their accounts to be signing on stuff like this, but you can. This is more common on maybe a service call to get them to sign off on that. So we added some site item there. You can also key in some notes and have those go back to your general company email or the customer if you'd like. Site images, typically they're on a mobile app or a mobile device, so they can snap photos before and after, or as-built documentation. That checklist that we dropped in, looks like he still hadn't confirmed that loudspeaker zone, and here's why kind of thing. It is DTools, so there's never a shortage of custom fields. So if we're missing something, there's plenty of space to create your own custom field with a name, and again, make it a lot of different ways you can have that set up. And then here, getting down to well, actually, I'll tell you what, documents. If you included a drawing, or in this case, this is a PDF of what they're going to be installing, right? It's basically a printout version of what all is going to be going on this install, including the notes there. But let's say as they finish the install, I'm going to stop the timer. And the cool thing is, I've just been playing around with this feature recently, but you can clock in and out multiple times from the same job. So the way I've seen people use that is they clock out, and maybe that was, you can assign a phase if you want, but say that the initial one was for travel time, then clock in and out for actual install time, and track it to that level of detail if you want. Not everybody wants that level of detail. It's up to you, but you can clock in and out multiple times from a job and track that labor individually, and maybe have different labor rates for those. It's certainly possible. And around for home, I'm just going to come in and now select all the items and mark them as installed, right? So now I've got the time, and I did want to point out, it's a common question on timesheets. Certainly, your lead tech or you guys in the software in the office can come in and be like, I forgot to log in at the right time again. Change it, right, and edit that time. But there you go, and let's see. Mark this as complete. So now this work order is complete here out in the field. And the way that data is going to come back in, we're rounding for home here, guys. I'm going to show you one last thing and open up the Q&A. Is as the information comes back in, let me come here. It's just a little bit. Let's do it over a bigger time frame. And if I do an update from, you can see it's going to pull in that additional time that we were on there here. So it's a pending hour. So there is a timesheets where you have your you can have it set up so that Office needs to approve those pending hours for that to go in to be your actual hours. You can see the approved and the pending right here that I have not approved yet. And I can go by a specific tech or go by projects and see those resource hours. And the last thing here to show you guys is where this, here we go. That didn't take long, go into projects and job costs. So you can do multiple projects at the same time. So I'm just going to grab a few. Just remember, this is our, keep in mind, this is demo information. So it's not going to be, as complete as someone actually running a real job. But you'll see for this particular job, percentage complete, and I'm doing it based on phase, and what we budget the cost to be, what was the delta. All right, same thing with labor, budgeted, actual, and then here's a few other jobs. I'm not sure how good the information is on these ones. All right, that one has a little bit, and quite a bit here. And this information, you can typically, anything in details can be exported out as a CSV, Excel, PDF. You want to make further edits to it. But there's certainly more to the software, but look forward to hopefully working with some of you guys here in the future. Okay, thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.